Visual artist Joel Zika joins me in the studio. How you going, Joel?
Good, Richard. Nice to be here.
Nice to have you in here. You've got a new show on at Diane Tanzer Gallery in Gertrude Street, Fitzroy, called Miracle Strip.
It essentially centres around three different spaces, sites, architectural sites that no longer exist, which are abandoned or destroyed amusement parks. And so the challenge I discussed with the gallery was how to use their space to bring these spaces back to life, or create a kind of dream where they existed in a number of ways. It all centres around the same kind of digital data. So I work in a very digital way, recreating these spaces, but so they actually form sandstone digital sculptures, large projection works, and large prints.
The notion of kind of lost architecture and is something that really intrigues me, and abandoned buildings are always fascinating. Where did the idea for this kind of exploration, this theme, come from for you?
My research has been for probably 10 years has been centering around trying to track the history of the ghost train and the haunted house. I'm intrigued in them as a precursor to cinema. And there's certainly a lot of evidence of rides through the 60s and 50s, but there's also a very small history of rides that occurred before popular cinema. The amazing thing about writing and researching is that in this area, so many amazing images sort of pop up. And these sites that you see in the show are some of the important, or certainly places that I'm really interested in looking at, that I'm trying to track any kind of anecdotal stories about what the rides inside them might have been like. So in a sense, this show is like a fantasy kind of trip through the photographic documentation of what I've been reading about. And so it has a sort of there's a ride element to some of the visuals. There's also a sort of gift shop, or like kind of memento. Memento is better. Don't tell the gallery I said gift shop. The ability to create in sandstone is amazing, like from a digital model, because it's like I'm recreating a historical object.
The notion of ghost trains as a form of entertainment, and as that combination of thrill and adventure that they have, which kind of certainly has since been replicated in cinema very successfully.
Yeah.
Why do ghost trains and related kind of rides fascinate you?
Well, I've always created work on the computer, and I sat down with a director of a festival a long time ago, and we were talking about what I was trying to do with my work, try and take these spaces that were created digitally and then turn them into something that you could experience. And we I think just jokingly talked about it like a ghost train, something you would take the audience through. So I went off and sort of started exploring that, and what came to pass was that, there's this sort of history where this is an electronic form of immersive environment, where you're dragged through a narrative space, but this is long before anything like that existed in cinema, and but it's still a highly sort of evolved piece of media technology. A small version of a little train. But everything's triggered: sound, music, lights, much the way
emotion is triggered as well.
Yeah, much the way a computer game would be triggered, which puts it in this really interesting historical space between all sorts of theatrical devices and the really mediated form of cinema that we know now.
The notion of resurrecting the past, of bringing life back to an abandoned site, an abandoned ride, or even kind of, in some ways, not necessarily physically recreating, but tapping into a lost sense of adventure. Are these things at all that intrigue you in your practice as an artist?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that a lot of my work is quite sort of melodramatic. It's quite theatrical, and I use a lot of these very, very impactful devices, lighting and things like that I see as being tied into kind of memory. So the first works that I did were always about the cinematic space, the gothic space, almost because of the things that you remember about a cinematic experience. So I'd use simple visual devices and to build a memory, and maybe I saw the ghost train as being like a set of memories about cinema. Maybe Frankenstein jumps out here and a vampire jumps out there. Or you get whacked on the side by a little spider or something, and a bright light shines in your eye. And my work is sort of like that, just elements sort of fed together. They don't make sense completely in a narrative, but they're elements of a narrative.
Miracle Strip is the exhibition and is on until the 13th of July at Diane Tanzer Gallery in Gertrude Street, Fitzroy. DianeTanzerGallery.net.au. Go and check it out. Miracle Strip work by artist Joel Zika. Joel, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Richard.